Okay, hello everyone. I'd like to welcome you to a client testimonial today. And I have with me today Emily. And Emily, we've been working together since last August, I think. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And initially we were meeting weekly, and then we went to like bi-weekly, and we've been doing monthly now for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I would just like you to kind of paint me a picture of what it was like for you when we first started meeting. Like, what was your mental emotional state? Things like that.
Okay. Mental and emotional state were not that great. I struggle heavily with depression and anxiety. Lots of social anxiety. And I was pretty much in a depressive episode for all of 2020. I, like many others, was affected by the pandemic, which oddly enough social distancing wasn't as big of a deal as my wedding getting canceled and jumping into married life alone with nobody else around you, isolated from friends and family, and I was still working, so there was zero transition into um, just a lot of issues I was going through that entire year, and I had zero coping mechanisms. So I was in a really bad depressive state for all of that year, but it was caused by all the years previous from struggling with these issues for my entire life, and it just got gradually worse and worse and worse until I knew that I had to seek help because my mom told me that every time she saw me, I was breaking down and crying, and she knew that I wasn't happy. So she said,
Yeah.
"You have to see somebody because it was worse than it had ever been before."
Wow.
So that was what I was like coming into meeting with Beth.
Yeah. When you say like worse than ever before, were you at a suicidal level?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I was.
Yeah.
And I was on the brink of a divorce. I was on the brink of hurting myself, and it really felt like there was absolutely no hope in my life for anything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. So could you even articulate what problems you were looking to overcome when you reached out to me?
No, I didn't. Um, I think the first session that I had with you, um, I was just like wailing about everything that had been happening, and I didn't know what was wrong with me or really what had been the cause of certain things, um, or how, or like yeah, even putting a name to it, like I couldn't articulate even what it was.
Yeah. Had you like um already tried different things to try to solve the problems that you were going through?
No, I over the years because depression and anxiety is something that I've always struggled with. I always found, I guess, short-term solutions. I I am a Christian and I do identify as a follower of Christ, and I've had a lot of problems with fitting in a church environment, and I think I found little fixes like that. Like I found a social group or a church where I felt accepted and I
Hmm.
felt like I could talk about things that I was working through, but something would always happen. Friends would leave, um, churches would be broken apart, issues would happen, and I would always be back to square one with like feeling lost and hopeless.
Right.
So I never actually had anything that I like personally. I actively did to fix anything.
Yeah. So what obstacles, or were there any obstacles that almost prevented you from either contacting me or like showing up at the first session?
One would be just fear of exposure.
Hmm.
I I didn't want anybody else to know all of my problems or to like complain to somebody else. And another was partly financial. Like I didn't know whether or not I could afford to seek professional help. Um, but like I said, my parents offered to help me with it a little bit because they knew it was something I very desperately needed.
Yeah. And so that kind of helped make your decision to come.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So since we started working together, how has your mental and emotional state changed?
I'm definitely not in the place I was back when we first met in August of 2020. So a little over a year now, and seeing all of like 2021's progress. Um, for the first time in my life, I have felt what it was like to not wake up and feel like I wanted to die,
Hmm.
because that was something that I've had every single day for all of my life, even
Wow.
if it wasn't like strong. It was there, always there. And so the first time in my life, I felt like I was living abundantly. That if it was like, through swings where it would get bad, I actually experienced parts of this year um, with joy and with gratitude um, and with the willingness and the ability to live a life that God has called me to live and be the person that He created me to be.
Wow. That's amazing. So, besides the mental and emotional part, have you seen any physical changes?
Um, Actually, I have. Right around the time that I like first started seeing you of last year, physically I was not doing well. I was having a lot of hormonal imbalances, which caused an increase of weight gain and incredibly irregular menstrual cycles, and I just felt awful.
Hmm.
Um, Through working through things like mentally and emotionally, we also we did like exercises and like you were keeping me accountable in getting some kind of physical movement. It didn't matter what kind, because I was so depressed I wasn't doing anything at all. So you like holding me accountable with baby steps of physical movement, and I did uh, try really hard taking care of myself physically at the earlier part of this year, to set better habits, and it significantly, over the course of just a few months, it significantly um, improved my hormonal imbalance, and
Wow.
I got my menstrual cycles a little bit more aligned. I was diagnosed with PCOS, but my doctor said that um, with just getting those hormone levels balanced out, it was going to make the cysts on the ovaries like not as many, not as big, and just kind of alleviate that problem. So far, I have minimized that issue significantly over the course of the year.
Wow.
Um, and coming into this year, I did have a lot more energy than what I did just compared to last year. Um, so I think just hormones wise, not being depressed so much, it really did help me physically.
Everything's connected, right?
Yeah.
Right. What about your spiritual life? How has that been affected?
Um, my spiritual life, I feel like, has absolutely blossomed from getting professional help from a Christian counselor, because you encouraged me to get closer to God on levels that I didn't think were possible.
Hmm.
And you really helped me connect with my identity in Christ. And the way I thought about myself is connected to the way I feel like God sees me. And it has really improved my spiritual life and my relationship with Christ, in that I now am able to feel Him and hear Him more in my life than what I ever did before.
That's awesome. That is really encouraging to hear. Um, what about relationships? Have you seen any difference in the relationship since we've been working together?
Yes, I'm still married. I
Well, okay, that's
uh,
pretty huge.
yeah, I think that I've gotten a lot more, like a lot better at communicating with people
Hmm.
about how I'm feeling, what I'm going through, the boundaries that I'm setting in my life. Um, I think by starting the process of opening up to you, is actually able to open up to other people in my life.
Wow.
And before, I felt very alone. Like I didn't have any friends.
Mm-hmm.
I had some family members, but I didn't have any friends, and I felt incredibly isolated. And I worked my way throughout this year of creating new relationships, and I feel like I do have friends and ones who actually understand what I've been going through, and who have in return shared me what they've been going through. And
Wow.
it's we're on a much deeper and more connected level than what we ever were before. And some are new friends, and some are friends that I knew a long time ago. And I wanted to rekindle it because I felt like I've been so absent from people's lives for a long time. And my marriage has gotten so much better just
Wow.
in the steps that we're taking to work together and work with each other through the ups and downs has significantly improved.
That is just incredible. Yeah. Um, let's see. Okay, was there a real turning point for you in therapy? Like something that you would like to share if there was a real turning point for you in therapy?
Yeah, I think the biggest turning point was when you uh, taught me about and walked me through Emmanuel's Prayer, which was an interactive practice with being present with Christ. And that was the biggest turning point, I think, in therapy because nothing was clicking until
Hmm.
I got right with God. And when I not only forgave myself, but I let the sacrifice that he made just fill me and be enough instead of feeling like I constantly wasn't worthy
Hmm.
of his salvation. And I think going into that more physical, personal relationship with Christ aligned everything else and
Wow.
started the healing steps in every
Wow.
other area of my life.
So that'd be something that you might recommend to people.
Oh yes, no, I didn't
Okay.
even know it existed before, but
Right. Right.
yeah, it was a huge thing.
Okay. Did anything like surprise you about working together? Were you surprised
Um,
by anything?
I think I was surprised just by the improvement I made.
Hmm.
I didn't think the amount of improvement that I made was possible.
Okay.
Um, I think I wanted to find counseling to just make my condition feel not as severe. I didn't actually expect to find any kind of abundance in life or
Hmm.
even a partial willingness to still live. Um, I just thought that I guess I was thinking on a more medical level, like I'll go get treatment and I'll feel, um, step A, step B, do this and this, and I'll feel partially better. But I didn't think that it would be a progressive thing that's going to stick with me for the rest of my life, and steps that I'm going to take, and new habits I'm going to form, and the ruts that my brain is in right now. The new way I can rewire and train my brain to think about
Right.
myself and others.
And that's a huge thing to learn. You can
Yes,
actually rewire your brain.
yeah, and I didn't know that before, so
Right. Um, what what were one or two unexpected benefits that you just didn't? I know you said a little bit about that already, but were there any like unexpected benefits that you experienced from working together?
um, I mean, yeah, I found a little bit of career direction. I guess just feeling like I was wandering through life and didn't have purpose or meaning. Um, you'd think that obviously like those are related, but I wasn't thinking about it. So I think career-wise success that I've had today,
Right.
it was unexpected. It was a complete surprise, and it was completely because God was leading me through those steps of healing and leading me to do things that I do actually think that He wanted me to do, and that I'm using talents that He created for me for a reason.
So tell us where you were working when we first started meeting.
I was working at a property complex as an assistant manager when we first started meeting. It was an incredibly high stress job, a lot of out of control emotions with the people I worked with, not just coworkers, but like residents of the apartment complex. And of course, it was all worse because of the pandemic, but it made me realize that that was not for my skill suit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was an incredibly negative environment. Um, and it led me to quit my job and start my own business, which has been a really scary process because it's not always been consistent. And I've done a lot of like freelancing jobs in between them, and I kind of felt like, was this a good decision? Because it was really a big leap of faith, um, but now I am a content creator working for my own business. I have been doing some freelance art instructing, and I am a graphic designer and a now published children's author and illustrator, which has been a dream come true for me because it was something that I knew I always wanted to do, but I just kept putting it off because I was like, I'm not ready to do that. I'm not ready to do that. So, and I believe that it was fully God who put me in that situation where I was like, okay, now it's time to actually do this. And I feel like I'm ready to present this to the world.
Do you feel like the where you were before working at that dead end job that you didn't like would have been possible to get from that job to where you are now without having to gone through some healing of yourself first?
I don't think so. I don't
Okay.
think that would have been like just a natural automatic transition. I think it was um because of the healing process.
Okay. So God doing that work in you allowed you like to clear all the clutter and
Absolutely.
stuff out. He
and
allowed you
and to
to hear
work through a
him.
lot of things. Yeah.
Hmm, that's awesome. Do you have your book?
Yes, I do actually.
Can we see it?
I want to grab it. It's right here.
Okay.
This is my children's book.
Ah, that's so awesome,
It's
Emily.
okay not to be okay that I wrote and illustrated. And that's my face on the back, which is really it's really exciting.
So proud of you.
Yeah, and my watercolor illustrations. So
They're gorgeous. I have a
thank
I have a
you.
signed copy that I love. And wait, you were at a festival in local festival for
Yes,
Oktoberfest,
yes.
and tell us a little bit about that.
Oktoberfest was an incredible experience. I completely sold out of all of the copies I had on hand, which was about 100 copies of this book.
Wow.
And I sold out of those, plus a bunch of other graphic designing gifts that I made. Um, and it was a therapeutic experience because there were people who didn't come and buy a book, but they donated money because they said they wanted books like this in libraries and schools, and that they really supported this cause, and it led other people to tell me about their mental health issues and the things that
Wow.
they've struggled with, and people who weren't even in my target demographic, because I wrote this for children, so I thought parents and children would be interested. And there
Sure.
was there were these bikers who came up and they said, I have been really was really suicidal in my past,
Wow.
and I've gone through some incredible healing, and I think that this is awesome that you have done something with uh, with your struggles to help other people, and I support this. And
So
just
incredible.
to those people, I know that they were put there by God to talk to me, because it was therapeutic for me to talk to them.
Wow. That's just incredible story. I love that story. Okay, so another question. Um, do you feel like we've been able to meet or exceed the expectations you had when you first reached out?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Like in what way?
Uh, well, I think that's manifested in the fact that like I said, I didn't think that there would be any career changes. I didn't think that there would be a deeper connection with Christ, a complete rewiring of my brain, the way I looked at myself. I didn't think that I could go a single day without absolutely hating myself,
Mm,
because I'm a self loather, and I thought that was just normal. So I think that was the biggest thing. Is like I didn't know that any of that was going to happen through
that's
finding
huge. Yeah.
counseling.
Yeah, that's huge. So we covered a lot of ground in our
Yeah.
therapy. Like we covered a lot of different things during time together. Is there some part of the therapy besides the manual prayer that stands out to you as the most impactful, or made you like the most fulfilled, satisfied, happiest? Um,
Um, I would have to say, I would probably have to say, keeping a journal of the truth and lies,
okay.
the lies that I would tell myself, the lies that Satan would tell me that I thought were true, but actually not, because you make a chart and then you write the actual truth, because this is a lie. Write
Mm-hmm.
the lie and the actual truth.
And those things that just kept playing over
Yeah.
and over and over in your head. And were you even
And
aware of them before that exercise?
no, I wasn't.
Mm.
And also wasn't in the habit of just mentally affirming myself, and mentally or even verbally speaking words of blessing or of like about myself. I've done
Hmm.
that for other people, but I never said things to myself to help me get through something.
Right.
And I started doing that with scripture and with psalms, and I would do that to help me go to sleep or when I woke up because of
Remember.
nightmares.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the practice we did of when we were working through my nightmare issues about waking up and doing the meditations was was like a pretty big breakthrough.
Right. Wow. That's huge. Okay. Let's see. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being suicidal and 10 being thriving and full of life, what was your mental emotional state of health before we met on that first day?
You said low, one being low
1
to me.
low. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one.
1
Yeah, one, if not completely zero.
off the scale. Okay.
Yeah.
So now on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your mental emotional health now? And I know that everybody has ups and downs, but like give it like a range.
I think I'm have really balanced out at like a good 7
Okay.
on just a normal day. I think
Okay.
on good days, I'm reaching nines. But I think
Whoa, you can get all
I
the way
think
up
on
to a 9.
yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm like completely at 10, but
You don't
on my
live there, right?
yeah, so on my good days I can get to a 9, but I think I've been like trying to just balance it out at like 7.
Yeah. That is an enormous improvement. I mean, like
Oh yeah,
remarkable, like huge. Okay. What would you tell someone who is considering working together with me?
what would I tell them?
Yeah.
Um,
If they
I
were
would
just
tell
like
them.
just considering it.
Okay. I would say that they probably didn't. They haven't put a lot of necessarily put a lot of thought into getting counseling or to talking to somebody professionally. But I would recommend that for anybody. And I really recommend you because you come from a deeply discerning Christian background, not
Yeah.
a shallow Christian background,
Hmm.
but you really, really go into depth about the the spiritual being behind all of the emotions and the mental state and the physical state. Um, and you really emphasize all of them being tied together so you don't put down one to put an importance on another, because they're all equally important, including the spiritual. And I really like the fact that um, you connect very deeply, and you are incredibly discerning. And I think that that's rare.
Okay. What would you say to people that might be on the fence about reaching out for help?
Um, I think that if you're even considering it, I think that's one of those responses that God created us with. I think if it's you've got a gut feeling or it's popping up in your mind, I think that it's something that you should really consider more, because
Hmm.
I think it's there for a reason. So if you're on the fence about something because you're like, I don't know if that's something I need yet, I think that it's already a yes, because it's going to open up things that you didn't know you needed to work on. So, um, so I would say like trust that feeling
Okay.
that if something needs to be resolved or healed, I think it
Yeah.
does, because it could always end up creating more issues later down the road.
What about believers that have like obstacles, um, whether it's like they think they'll be judged for getting help, or they think that people will look down on them, or people think that something must be wrong with me if I need to ask for help, or I'm not praying enough, or and they're
Yeah,
like, do I really? I
um,
don't know if I want to pull the trigger on this. What would you say to people
yeah,
like that?
I know that feeling all too well, because that I didn't have that thought a lot, but it was still in the back of my mind. I was like, this could still affect me later negatively because of what people would think about me. And it turns out that the people who actually care about you are going to understand about it, and they're going to support it.
Hmm.
And the people that you don't need in your life are probably the ones who are going to have an issue with it, but they are the people that are not healthy for you in the first place,
Hmm.
or you're not in a healthy, supportive environment, such as, you know, a church that supports your beliefs, or, any kind of community group that is supportive of you.
So
So
it sounds
I
like you're
think,
saying it's like clarifying
yeah,
even.
it is. So
Okay.
I think don't worry about what somebody else thinks of you, which is rich coming from me, because
Can I record
that
that?
never
Wait.
been
Uh, okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend Reimagine Life to others?
10.
Okay.
Yes.
And the main reason for that would be?
Uh, I think because it has helped me so much, and I know a lot of other people who are in a similar state that I'm in
Hmm.
that have never thought that they've been able to reach out to somebody.
Hmm.
And I think because I've had such a positive experience with you, then I'd recommend them to you.
Recommend.
So,
Oh, that's awesome. So, is there anything else that you would like to comment on or say about working with me or the therapy that we've used or anything like that?
I think last notes. I think that therapy works best when you are ready to put forth the effort and
Hmm.
the action
Amen.
to the advice and the steps, because I don't think anything will ever be resolved or fixed for yourself if it's just like passive. Like if you're just, hearing what you need to do, you're not putting it in action. I knew that I was ready to see somebody because I knew if I did not physically put forth the work, I would end up dead.
Hmm.
And I was like, I'm ready for my life to not be awful. Like, and I'm gonna do anything that it takes to fix
Whatever
it.
it takes.
So I was willing to put forth the work, and I think that some people it doesn't work because they're not yet ready to put forth the work into it.
Right. Yeah. That is huge. And actually, Emily, you were like you fit perfectly into my ideal client. Like if I
Oh,
was to
great.
describe my ideal client, it would be you because you were ready. You understood that you needed to get help. And like you said, you were willing to do whatever. Like whatever it takes, I'm going to do it because I can't live like this anymore.
Yeah, and it's like this is it. Like if I don't find something that works, what else is there? So
Right.
I needed to actually try to see if it works. So
Right, right. Well, Emily, it's been great being your counselor, coach, therapist, and having this conversation with you. I very much appreciate your honesty, and yeah,
You're certainly welcome.
yeah.
It's been a great experience working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.